I still remember that day. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon, the kind of rain that taps on the windows like a soft warning. And I was sitting in the living room scrolling through my phone with half my attention on the news and half on the soft sound of my daughter's laughter coming from her bedroom. She had just married a few months ago, and I was happy, genuinely happy that she had someone she loved. Or at least, that's what I thought. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional squeak of the floorboards as my husband moved around in the kitchen. Everything seemed normal, mundane even, until a small notification popped up on my phone. My daughter had sent a voice message. Normally, I wouldn't even notice it, as it was meant for her husband, and I always respected their privacy. But that day, something drew me to it. Maybe it was a strange instinct, a whisper in the back of my mind that told me to listen. I tapped the play button. At first, it was her usual soft voice, laughing, joking about something silly they had argued over that morning. But then, in the middle of her laughter, her tone shifted. She paused. Her voice became quieter, almost a whisper, like she was afraid someone else would hear. I froze. The words she said next made my heart stop, and for a few seconds I couldn't breathe. She was talking about her husband, and the things she revealed made me feel a cold chill run down my spine. The cozy living room, the rain outside, the hum of the house, everything faded away as her words sank in. It wasn't just a complaint or a joke. It was a secret, something she had never shared with anyone before. Something that could change everything I thought I knew about their marriage. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the screen, debating whether to confront her or pretend I hadn't heard anything. Every instinct screamed at me to respect her privacy. But another part of Mitha, part that was a mother and couldn't ignore danger, told me I needed to know more. My mind raced through all the possible scenarios. Was she in danger? Was he abusive? Or was it something else entirely? Something I couldn't yet imagine. I could hear the rain pattering harder against the windows, like the world itself was echoing my growing fear. The dog, sensing my tension, whimpered softly at my feet. I wanted to reach out and comfort her, but I didn't even know where to start. Then something even stranger happened. As I sat frozen, a notification popped up on my phone again. It was another voice message from her. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I knew I should leave it alone, but I couldn't. I tapped play again, and this time her voice was trembling. She mentioned something about a meeting, about a secret she was hiding, and about a fear I couldn't yet understand. Her words were rushed, urgent, and the way she whispered my daughter's voice, it sounded like someone else might have been listening. I leaned back in the chair, my hand gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Suddenly, there was a noise from her bedroom, like the door creaking slightly. My heart skipped. Was she back in the room? Did she suspect I had listened? I froze, listening. Nothing. Just the rain, the soft tapping against the glass, the muffled sound of her voice message playing on repeat in my mind. My chest felt heavy, a mix of fear and a strange, desperate curiosity that I couldn't shake. I didn't know if I was about to uncover something small and silly or something so big it would shatter our family. And then, just as I was about to place the phone down and walk away, my daughter's husband called her. The ringtone echoed through the house. I didn't know what I was going to do next, and in that instant, I felt trapped between fear, worry, and the need to protect her, though I didn't even fully understand from what. And that's when I realized the message she sent, the words I overheard, had opened a door I couldn't close. Something was happening behind closed doors, something I had no idea about, and somehow I had stumbled into it. My mind raced with questions. Was she in trouble? Was this something I could fix? Or was it already too late? My fingers trembled as I held the phone, and I knew I had to make a choice, confront her immediately, or wait and risk discovering a truth I wasn't sure I could handle. And just as I decided, a soft knock on the living room window made me jump, my heart racing like never before. I still remember that day. The rain was still falling, heavier now, and the house felt colder, emptier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. I pressed my forehead to the window, trying to see clearly through the streaks of rain. My eyes widened, my heart hammering against my chest. Outside, under the dim glow of the streetlight, a figure was standing motionless, silent, watching my house. I could barely make out details, but I knew it wasn't someone I recognized. Panic started to rise in my chest, a mix of fear and confusion. Who would be outside on a rainy afternoon, staring at my home like that? And why now, just as I had overheard that voice message? My hands shook so much that I almost dropped the phone. I considered calling my husband, but then I remembered he was busy in the kitchen, oblivious to the storm brewing both outside and inside. My daughter's voice replayed in my mind. The whispers, the fear, the words meant for her husband. And now, this stranger, this watcher added another layer of terror I couldn't ignore. Every instinct screamed at me to do something, but my body felt frozen, glued to the spot. I watched as the figure slowly turned and walked away, disappearing into the dark, rainy street. I couldn't shake the feeling that they had seen me notice them. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. I walked back to the living room, gripping my phone like a lifeline. My mind raced, trying to piece everything together. Was this connected to my daughter's message? Was her secret somehow already in danger? I felt an icy chill crawl up my spine. My nerves taut like a wire ready to snap. I could hear the rain pounding against the roof, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the distant rumble of thunder, and even the dog whining again as if sensing my unease. Every little sound felt amplified, echoing in the silence of the house, making me more aware of how alone I felt in that moment. I wanted to confront my daughter, to ask her directly what she had meant, what she had revealed. But as soon as I thought about it, I hesitated. What if I pushed her too far? What if I forced her to tell me something she wasn't ready to share? And what if this stranger outside had something to do with her fears? The thought made my stomach turn. I realized I didn't just want to know her secret, I needed to protect her. Even if it meant stepping into a situation I didn't fully understand. I decided to send her a simple text first, something casual. Just to feel her presence. Hey, are you okay? Everything good? I hit send, then waited, staring at the screen like a child waiting for a reply from Santa Claus. Minutes felt like hours. Then my phone buzzed with a new notification, not from her, but from her husband. He was calling. My heart skipped. I debated ignoring it, letting them have their privacy, but something inside me screamed not to. I answered. His voice on the other end was calm, almost too calm. "Hello," he said. But there was an edge to it, a quiet tension I couldn't place. I tried to act casual, but my voice betrayed me. "Hi, I just wanted to check in," I murmured. He asked a few polite questions, small talk about dinner, the weather, the dog butt. There was something underneath, a subtle unease I couldn't ignore. And then, almost as if he realized I knew more than I should, he hung up without explanation. My hands were shaking. I sank into the couch, burying my face in my hands, the weight of fear pressing down on me. Every possible scenario played in my mind. Was my daughter in danger? Was this stranger outside some kind of threat? Had I unknowingly stepped into something far bigger than a simple family argument? I wanted answers, but I didn't know where to start. And just as I was gathering the courage to move toward her bedroom, my phone buzzed again, a message from her. My heart skipped. It was a voice message. I hesitated. Should I play it? What if it confirmed my worst fears? But curiosity and maybe a mother's instinct won over. I pressed play. Her voice was shaky, almost a whisper, and I could hear her holding back tears. She spoke about a meeting she had attended that day. Something that had upset her deeply. Something she hadn't been able to tell me. And then, suddenly, she said words that made my blood run cold. If anything happens to me, you have to find out the truth about him. Drop the phone. My hands shook uncontrollably. The room seemed to close in on me, the walls pressing tighter with each passing second. That single line. It carried a weight I couldn't yet fully understand. My mind spun with fear, dread, and disbelief. What truth? About him, her husband, and why now? Why this warning, this sudden plea, this voice message I had never meant to hear. And that's when I heard a soft knock at the front door. Not a tap, not the wind, it was deliberate, slow, and echoing. I froze. My heart pounded, my breath caught in my throat. The dog growled softly, sensing the tension. I wanted to move, to run, to scream, but my body refused to obey. Whoever was outside, they weren't leaving without being noticed. And I knew deep down that the next few moments would change everything. I still remember that day. The knock on the door had left my heart hammering, each beat louder than the last, echoing in the silent house. I pressed my eye to the peephole, expecting maybe a delivery person, a neighbor. Anyone but what I saw made me freeze in place. It wasn't a stranger in a raincoat or a familiar face. It was him, my daughter's husband. His expression was unreadable, calm on the surface. But there was a tension in his eyes, something I couldn't quite place. I knew in that instant that he was carrying a secret, a weight, and somehow I had stumbled right into it. I stepped back from the door, my mind racing. Was he angry? Had he realized I had overheard her message? Should I confront him or pretend I hadn't noticed anything? But before I could decide, he knocked again, sharper this time, demanding attention. The sound reverberated through the quiet house, making the rain outside feel even heavier, almost like it was part of the tension building inside. My hands were trembling as I moved slowly toward the door. Every instinct screamed at me to be cautious, to protect my daughter, understand what was going on before anything worse could happen. I opened the door just a crack. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. He looked at me, and for a brief second I saw a flash of something regret, guilt. But then his calm composure returned. "We need to talk," he said quietly. His tone wasn't angry, not threatening, but there was an urgency in it that sent chills down my spine. He stepped forward slightly, but I instinctively stepped back. There was a storm outside, yes, but inside me, a much darker storm was brewing. I wanted answers, but I also feared them. He told me to sit down, and I did, my hands shaking on my knees. He spoke slowly, carefully, almost as if he was choosing every word to avoid making things worse. "I know you've heard things," he said finally, looking me straight in the eye. My stomach dropped. He knew. He knew I had heard my daughter's voice message, and now I had no choice but to listen, to face whatever truth he was about to reveal. He explained that there were things about him, about their marriage, that my daughter didn't know he could share. I wanted to stop him, to demand he leave, but something in his voice and honesty, a trembling vulnerability, kept me rooted to my seat. He spoke about a misunderstanding, a situation that had escalated, something from his past that he hadn't told anyone about, and how he had been trying to protect my daughter from it. Yet the way he described it, the secrecy, the hushed tones, made it feel darker, heavier, like a shadow looming over our family. As he continued, I could hear the rain outside blending with my own rapid heartbeat. The dog had moved closer to me, sensing my tension, whining softly. Every word he said seemed to twist in my mind, creating more questions than answers. How much had my daughter really known? How much had I inadvertently uncovered? The room felt smaller, tighter, the air heavier with suspense. And then, just as I thought I might start to understand, he said something that made my entire body go cold. There are people who don't want her to know the truth. People watching, waiting. You need to be careful. I blinked, confused, my mind spinning. Who? Watching. Waiting. I felt like I had fallen into a nightmare I couldn't escape from. My fingers gripped the arms of the chair so tightly my nails dug into my skin. Fear mixed with anger and worry, a storm I couldn't control. I wanted to scream, to run to my daughter, to protect her, but I didn't even know where to start. And as if the universe sensed my panic, the lights flickered once, then again, plunging the room into near darkness. And then I heard it, a soft whisper so faint I almost thought I imagined it. My daughter's voice calling my name. I froze. She wasn't in the house, or at least I thought she wasn't. My heart pounded louder than ever. Was it a trick of the wind? Or was someone somehow trying to warn me? The tension in the room was suffocating. I realized then that whatever secret my daughter had revealed, whatever danger was lurking behind her husband's explanation, it was far from over. I turned to look at him, hoping for guidance, for reassurance, but his face had changed. A shadow crossed his expression. Fear, maybe even panic. He whispered, almost to himself, "They're here. They know." My blood ran cold. Who was they? And what did they want? I could feel the walls closing in. The storm outside, irrelevant compared to the storm now inside my home. Inside my mind, I still remember that day. The sound of the door handle rattling made my blood run cold. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure anyone in the house could hear it. I backed away slowly, my hands trembling, my mind racing through every possible scenario. The rain outside fell harder, drumming on the roof like the angry heartbeat of the world itself. I wanted to scream, to call my daughter, to call the police, but my throat was dry, my body frozen with fear. Whoever or whatever was outside, I knew in my bones it wasn't just a simple visitor. Her husband stepped closer to me, his face pale, eyes darting nervously toward the front door. "Stay calm," he whispered, his voice almost shaking. "Don't open it." But I couldn't just stand there. My instincts as a mother were screaming louder than his warning. I needed to protect my daughter, even if it meant putting myself in danger. I edged toward the living room window, trying to peek outside, but the shadows and rain made it impossible to see clearly. All I could make out were dark shapes moving in the distance, like they were circling the house. Waiting? The phone buzzed again in my hand, and I jumped at the sound. It was a message from my daughter. My hands shook so badly I could barely open it. I played the voice message. She sounded panicked, whispering so quickly I had to listen twice to catch her words. "Mom, if anyone calls or if something happens, don't trust him completely. There's more than one secret, and it's bigger than we think. Be careful. They're closer than you know." I dropped the phone, my head spinning. My daughter. Was she in danger? Was her husband telling me the full truth? Or was there something he wasn't saying? Fear twisted inside me like a knife. I wanted to run to her, to hold her, to tell her it would be okay, but the thought of leaving the front door unguarded made me feel paralyzed. Whoever was outside, they knew about her. They were watching, waiting, and now, somehow, I was involved. I looked at her husband, searching his eyes for answers. He ran a hand through his hair, his usually calm demeanor completely shattered. "I should have told you everything sooner," he admitted, his voice barely audible. "But I was trying to protect her. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could keep them away." Words hung in the air like a heavy fog. I wanted to scream at him, to demand that he explain, but I couldn't speak. The fear had taken over completely. Then the rattling at the door stopped. For a moment, silence. Only the rain, the distant thunder, the soft whine of the dog at my feet. I dared to breathe, just a small, shaky inhale. But that silence was more terrifying than the noise. My mind raced, picturing every possible scenario. Intruders, hidden enemies, people my daughter had never even met waiting to make their move. And then a shadow appeared through the frosted glass of the front door. A hand pressed against it, slow, deliberate, like a predator testing its prey. I gasped and stumbled back. Her husband grabbed my arm, holding me steady. "We have to be smart," he said, whispering fiercely. "They're not just outside, they know things. They know her. They know us. We can't make a mistake now." My stomach twisted with terror. Every nerve in my body was screaming at me to flee, to run to my daughter, to protect her, but where could I run? The storm outside mirrored the storm inside. My home, once a place of comfort, now felt like a trap. Then I heard a soft, almost inaudible click from the back of the house. My blood ran cold. Whoever was at the front door wasn't the only one. There was someone else. Someone inside. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone again. The dog barked, low and menacing, sensing the same danger I did. I realized then that whatever secrets my daughter had revealed in that voice message, they were part of something much bigger, something I hadn't imagined, something that had already reached into our home. And just as I gathered the courage to move toward the back door, a voice whispered behind me. Soft, chilling, familiar, yet not. You shouldn't have listened. I still remember that day. The shadow in my living room froze me in place, my body locked in fear. The rain outside pounded harder, hammering against the windows like a warning drum. My heart raced so fast I could hear it in my ears, drowning out every other sound. The figure didn't move. My eyes strained to make out details, but all I could see was a dark silhouette, tall and still, with an intensity in the presence that made the air feel suffocating. I swallowed hard, trying to calm myself, but the lump in my throat made it impossible to speak. Her husband grabbed my arm, pulling me slightly behind him. Stay calm. Don't panic, he whispered urgently. I could hear the desperation in his voice, and it only made my fear multiply. Who was this? How had they gotten in? And more importantly, what did they want? My mind went 1,000 directions at once, the voice message my daughter had sent still echoing in my ears. Be careful. They're closer than you know. I hadn't understood the full meaning back then, but now I was starting to. The shadow finally moved, stepping forward into the dim light. I caught a glimpse of a face masked, unreadable cold. The person didn't say a word, just stood there, watching, as if waiting for me to make a mistake. My hands shook violently, and I could feel my knees weakening. I wanted to run to my daughter to scream, to protect her, but I knew I couldn't leave my position. Whoever this was, they weren't ordinary. There was something calculated about them, something deliberate that made my blood run cold. Her husband took a deep breath, trying to sound confident, though I could see the tension in his eyes. You're not supposed to be here, he said firmly, his voice trembling slightly. The figure didn't respond. Instead, they reached slowly into a pocket and pulled out a small device, pressing a button that made a soft beep. My stomach dropped. Was it a camera? A tracker? I couldn't tell. My mind raced through the possibilities, each one darker than the last dot. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. I fumbled to pick it up, my hands shaking uncontrollably. It was another voice message from my daughter. I pressed play, and her panicked whisper filled the room. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know it would come this far. Please listen to him. Trust no one else. Get out if you can, but don't leave my father alone. Her words made my blood run cold. Get out if you can, but don't leave my father alone. My mind reeled. She was talking about her husband, Dor. Was it me? She meant by father. The meaning twisted and shifted, and the urgency in her voice made it clear that the danger was immediate. I realized that the voice message I had heard by accident had led me into the middle of something I wasn't ready for, something far more dangerous than I had imagined. I looked at the shadow again. Slowly, deliberately, they took another step forward. And I noticed a knife glinting in their hand, catching the faint light from the hallway. My heart skipped. My stomach churned. My legs felt like lead. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to grab my daughter, to escape, but where could I go? The rain outside was relentless, and the house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Then her husband made a move. He lunged toward the figure, grabbing their wrist and twisting the knife hand down. The shadow struggled, but he was strong, determined, fueled by something I couldn't yet understand. In that instant, fear and relief collided inside me. He was fighting to protect us, but who is this person, and why were they here? My mind flashed to the voice messages, to the secrets my daughter had revealed, and the horrifying possibility that whoever this was, they knew more than we did. The struggle ended as suddenly as it began. The figure slipped, stumbled, and ran toward the back of the house, disappearing into the darkness. I collapsed into the couch, my chest heaving, my body trembling uncontrollably. The dog barked fiercely, running to the door, but there was nothing there. Silence fell over the house, but the tension didn't leave. Whoever had come for us, they were still out there, waiting, watching, and then I heard a soft whisper from the hallway. So faint, I almost thought it was my imagination. You shouldn't have listened. The voice was chillingly familiar. I spun around, my heart stopping, but the hallway was empty. My mind screamed. Was it her? Or someone else? Someone who had been here the whole time, hidden in the shadows, observing everything? The storm outside felt nothing compared to the storm now raging inside my home, inside my heart. I still remember that day. The silence after the intruder fled was almost unbearable. The rain had slowed, but the storm inside my chest raged on, each heartbeat pounding louder than the last. I sat frozen on the couch, my hands still trembling, staring at the empty hallway. Her husband knelt beside me, his face pale, eyes scanning every corner of the living room. "We have to stay calm," he whispered. "They're not gone. They'll come back if they think we're vulnerable." Vulnerable. The word echoed in my mind like a warning bell. My body ached with tension. My daughter's voice from the messages haunted me. "Be careful. They're closer than you know." I understood now. They weren't just watching us, they were planning, waiting, hunting. And somehow, I was caught in the middle. I wanted to call the police, but the thought of explaining this chaotic, secret-filled situation made my stomach twist. Who would believe me? Who could I trust? We moved silently through the house, checking doors and windows, locking everything tight. The storm outside had left puddles and wet leaves scattered across the porch. Evidence of someone who had been there, lurking, watching. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant rumble of thunder, every soft sound from the dog made my heart race. My mind kept replaying my daughter's messages, her whispers, her warnings, her fear. I realized then that I had been drawn into something much bigger than I had imagined. Something dangerous. Something that might destroy everything I loved. Her husband spoke quietly, explaining that there were people from his past, people he had tried to protect my daughter from. He had hidden secrets, yes, but the truth was far more serious than I could have imagined. They were dangerous, manipulative, and they would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. And now that they knew I had heard my daughter's message, I had become part of their game. My stomach churned as I tried to process everything. I had thought this was about a misunderstanding, a simple secret. I had been wrong. Then another message buzzed on my phone. It was her again. I pressed play, hands shaking. Her voice was quiet, urgent. "Mom, I didn't know they would come here. You have to protect yourself, protect Dad. Don't trust anyone. Not even the people you think you can." My chest tightened. Her fear was palpable, and I could feel it wrapping around me, squeezing. She was trying to warn me, trying to guide me without being here. And I realized I wasn't just protecting her anymore. I was protecting myself, her father, her family, everything. The night grew darker. Shadows seemed longer, deeper, more menacing. Every sound, the wind brushing against the windows. The creak of a branch outside, the soft whine of the dog felt like a signal, a warning. I kept thinking about the shadow from earlier, about the whisper. "You shouldn't have listened." Who had said that? And why? I couldn't be sure if it was her, someone pretending to be her, or someone else entirely. Suddenly, a noise from the back of the house made me jump. A door creaked, slow, deliberate, like someone was testing whether we were alert. I glanced at her husband. He tensed. "They're back," he whispered. My heart raced. I wanted to scream, to grab a weapon, to do anything, but my body felt paralyzed. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside the house had only grown. I realized then that we were trapped in a nightmare. And the only way out was to face it. We decided to move to the back room, locking the doors behind us. The space was small, cramped, but at least we were together. I held my daughter's phone tightly, replaying her messages, trying to find clues. Trying to understand what we were dealing with. Each word, each whisper, each warning made my pulse spike higher. And then I heard it again. A faint sound like soft footsteps moving through the house. Not one, not two, but several. They were inside. They had found us. I still remember that night. The moment those words echoed through the darkened house, my blood ran cold. "We know you're here." It wasn't my daughter's voice. It was deeper, heavier, the kind of voice that didn't just speak. It invaded the air. Her husband froze, his eyes wide. The faint beam of the flashlight trembled in his hand. I could hear the sound of my own breathing, sharp and shallow, like I was trying not to exist. For a few seconds, we didn't move. We just listened. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, scraping across the wooden floor. Whoever was inside the house wasn't in a hurry. They wanted us to hear them. They wanted us to be afraid. And they were succeeding. My hands clutched the phone tighter, my knuckles white. My daughter's last message replayed in my mind like an endless echo. Don't trust anyone. Not even the people you think you can. Husband motioned for me to stay quiet. We backed deeper into the small back room. The dog, sensing the danger, pressed against my leg, shaking but silent. I wished my daughter was there, not because I wanted her in danger, but because I wanted to see her, to hold her, to tell her that I believed her now, that I finally understood, that I should have listened sooner. But all I had was her voice trapped in the phone. And those words kept replaying in my mind. They're closer than you know. The intruders moved closer. I could hear the sound of drawers being pulled open, the thud of things falling in soft whispers. At least 2, maybe 3 of them. The air smelled of damp wood and fear. My heartbeat was so loud it felt like it was echoing off the walls. Then one of them spoke again, closer this time. She's not alone. App felt my body freeze completely. They knew I was there. Somehow, they knew. Her husband grabbed my arm and mouth. Stay behind me. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I heard the sound of something metallic scraping against the floor. A weapon, maybe? My mind spiraled with panic. How had it come to this? What had my daughter gotten herself into? And why did they come here to me? We waited in the silence that followed. The house groaned under the weight of the wind outside. The shadows moved across the hallway, flickering through the gap beneath the door. I held my breath, every muscle tense. Then her husband whispered, "We can't stay here. We have to move." But before I could respond, something hit the door once, hard. The sound made me jump back, hitting the wall behind me. Then a voice said, "You should have stayed quiet." The door handle turned slowly. Her husband lunged forward, slamming his weight against the door, holding it shut. The pressure on the other side was strong. Someone was pushing hard. The wood creaked. I could hear their breathing, heavy and determined. "Call the police," he shouted. I scrambled for my phone, but before I could dial, the signal vanished. The screen read, "No service." My heart dropped. It was like someone had planned this. The door banged again. My hands trembled so badly I could barely hold the phone. "They cut the power. They killed the signal," her husband muttered. "They knew we'd call for help." His face was pale, eyes darting around the room. Then suddenly everything went silent again. No footsteps. No voices. Just the distant sound of the rain starting up again, tapping against the windows. The kind of silence that made you wonder if the world was holding its breath. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Time had lost all meaning. We stayed there in the dark, afraid to move. I could hear my heartbeat, the ticking of the clock in the next room, and the slow drip of rain through the cracked window frame. Then my phone buzzed again. The sound made me jump. I looked at the screen. It was another voice message. From my daughter. The timestamp showed it had been sent hours ago. I hesitated, afraid of what I might hear. Her husband shook his head slightly, as if to say, "Don't." But I pressed play anyway. Her voice came through, weak but steady. "Mom, if you're hearing this, it means they've found you. Please don't trust him. He's part of it." My breath caught in my throat. I looked at her husband, and in that moment, something in his expression changed. I still remember that night. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. "I was hoping you wouldn't find out this way." My stomach twisted. I stared at him, my hands trembling, my mind screaming. All the warnings from my daughter, the shadow outside, the whispers in the hall, it all clicked at once. The husband I had trusted, the one I thought was protecting us, was part of it. Part of the danger, the rain outside had turned into a steady downpour, slamming against the windows and roof, echoing the chaos inside. My heart raced so fast it felt like it would explode. I wanted to run, to escape, but the fear rooted me to the spot. His calm demeanor had disappeared, replaced by a cold, calculated stare that made my blood run cold. I realized I had been deceived, and that deception had led us straight into the heart of the danger. He stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, his voice low and menacing. "You shouldn't have listened to her messages. You shouldn't have involved yourself." My mind reeled. All the warnings, the whispering shadows, the intruders, the voice messages from my daughter, they weren't random. They were a setup, and I had fallen right into it. I backed toward the corner of the small back room, trying to gather my thoughts, trying to stay calm enough to survive. My eyes darted to the phone in my hand. If I could just get one call through, one alert to someone outside, maybe we could still get out alive. But the signal was gone. My hand shook violently as I realized I was completely trapped. Then he smirked, as if reading my thoughts. "There's no one coming," he said. "They've been watching us for weeks. Your daughter's messages? They were meant to lure me in, to make me think she needed protecting. But it's you I needed to reach. You've been the weak link all along." My heart dropped. The reality hit me like a sledgehammer. Everything I had felt, everything I had feared, it had all been manipulated. My daughter's warnings, her fear, my instinct to protect her, all of it had been used to bring me here, to corner me. I felt a cold fury mixed with terror. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted someone who had orchestrated everything? The dog growled low, sensing the shift in the room, and he froze, staring at us with a tense, protective posture. I could hear the rain, the wind, the soft creaks of the house, as if the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't wait for him to decide my fate. I scanned the room looking for anything I could use, anything to defend myself. A heavy lamp sat on a side table. I grabbed it, my hands shaking, but my mind sharpening. His eyes narrowed as he noticed my movement, but he didn't stop me. He simply smiled like a predator observing the first panic in its prey. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the front of the house, a window breaking. My pulse spiked. The intruders were back, and now they had an opening. Chaos erupted as he lunged toward me, trying to take the lamp from my hands. I swung it instinctively, the sound of impact echoing like thunder through the room. He stumbled back, momentarily stunned. And I realized this was my chance. I bolted toward the hallway, adrenaline carrying me faster than I thought possible. The rain pounded through the broken window, the wind whipping against my face as I ran. But I knew I couldn't escape alone. My daughter's warnings had prepared me for part of this, but the truth was far darker than I could have imagined. Whoever had orchestrated this wanted more than just to scare us. They wanted to control us, manipulate us, destroy us. And then I heard a voice. Her voice, faint but clear, from somewhere in the house. "Mom, trust no one. Go now." My chest tightened. She was here somewhere, caught in the chaos too. And in that instant, I realized that the real battle was just beginning. I still remember that night. My daughter's terrified eyes frozen in the doorway, the shadow looming behind her, and the rain slamming against the windows like an alarm. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would break my chest. I wanted to run to her, to grab her, to pull her away from the danger, but my body felt paralyzed, trapped in the moment. I could see the fear radiating off her, and it pierced me deeper than any fear I had felt for myself. The intruder or intruders moved closer, their presence like ice creeping through the room. My daughter whispered, barely audible, "Mom, don't trust him." Her words cut through the fog of fear in my mind. Her husband, the man I thought I could rely on, had been part of it all along. And now, standing there, I realized how deep the deception ran. He had manipulated my daughter, manipulated me, orchestrated every step so that we would be vulnerable, so that we would be easy targets. The shadow stepped into the dim light, and I could see more clearly now. It wasn't just one person. There were three, all masked, all moving with the precision of people who had planned this attack for weeks. Panic surged through me. I knew I had to protect my daughter. But the house, the very walls that had once been our safe place, now felt like a trap closing in around us. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. Think, act, protect her. My mind ran through every scenario, every possible way to get us out alive. I grabbed her hand, feeling her trembling in mine. "We have to move," I whispered, trying to sound braver than I felt. Her eyes met mine, and for a brief second I saw a flicker of trust. Then her husband appeared behind us. "You can't leave," he said coldly, his voice like steel. "They won't let you." "No one will." My stomach twisted. I realized that he wasn't just an obstacle. He had been there inside connection all along. Every warning, every hesitation, every false reassurance had been part of their plan. And now, cornered between him and the intruders, I felt the weight of despair like a stone pressing down on my chest. But my daughter squeezed my hand and whispered again, "We can still get out. Listen to me. Don't let them control you." Her words sparked something inside me, a mix of fury and determination. I realized then that fear alone wouldn't save us. Only action would. Only courage. I looked at her husband, and for the first time I saw fear flicker in his eyes. The mask of control he had worn so flawlessly was cracking. The intruders moved closer, and I could hear their whispers, their soft steps on the floor. I needed a plan, anything to distract them. I remembered the lamp from earlier. I grabbed it and swung it toward the nearest intruder, hitting him hard enough to stagger him. The sound of impact echoed through the house, startling the others for just a second, enough for me and my daughter to slip past. We ran, our breaths ragged, hearts hammering, and I realized the true scale of the danger. This wasn't just about secrets in a marriage or a family disagreement. This was about manipulation, control, and hidden forces that we hadn't even begun to understand. The house blurred around me as we bolted through the hallways, every shadow and sound magnified by fear. Finally, we reached the back door. I pushed it open and stumbled into the rain-soaked backyard. My daughter clung to me, shivering but determined. And then, through the driving rain, I saw something, the lights of a car approaching. Someone was here. Someone who could help us. Relief surged through me, but it was tempered by the knowledge that the danger was not over. They had been watching, planning, and they wouldn't give up so easily. I still remember that night. The rain, the shadows, the whisper that chilled me to the bone. "You can't run from this. Not anymore." My heart was hammering, my mind spinning with fear, anger, and disbelief. We were soaked, trembling, and desperate. And yet, somehow, in that moment, I knew that everything we had endured, the lies, the threats, the intrusions had brought us to the edge of survival. The figure by the car stepped forward. I squinted through the rain and recognized a familiar face, a trusted family friend. Relief surged like wildfire through my body. I wanted to run into their arms, to collapse, to finally feel safe again. But before I could, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I spun around, and there was her husband, his face a mix of fear and regret. "Wait," he said, his voice pleading. I didn't want it to go this far. I was trying to protect her. But his words rang hollow. After everything, I didn't know if I could trust him anymore. The chaos, the whispers, the hidden plans, the intruders. It was all too much. My mind flashed back to her voice messages, the ones I hadn't intended to hear, and the warnings she had left for me. She had been trying to protect me, to warn me, to prepare me. And I realized then that the true danger hadn't just been the intruders. It had been the deception surrounding us all along. I turned back to my daughter. She was soaked, shivering, but her eyes held a spark of determination. "Mom," she whispered, "we have to leave, now." I nodded, taking her hand, feeling the warmth and strength in it. We ran toward the car, the trusted friend opening the door for us. The intruders were gone, at least for now, but the fear didn't leave. I knew they could return, that the threats might continue, that the lies might still try to pull us apart as we drove away, the rain pounding against the windshield. I held my daughter close and finally let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Her warnings, her messages had saved us. The secrets, the fears, the suspense, it had all led to this moment of escape and survival. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see shadows following us. But the streets were empty. The storm starting to clear, her husband's face appeared in my mind one last time. The truth finally clear. Not everyone we trust is truly on our side. And sometimes the people we think are protecting us are the very ones putting us in danger. But my daughter, her courage, her instincts, her foresight, they had carried us through. And I realized that even in the darkest moments, the ones we love can guide us, warn us, and help us survive. We drove in silence for a while, listening to the rain, letting the tension slowly ease. My daughter finally whispered, "We made it. Together." And I held her hand tighter, realizing that our bond, our trust, and our love had been the strongest shield against the storm. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes the truth is hidden in the whispers we weren't meant to hear, and courage is found in the moments we fear most.